When I worked for MI5 in the 1990s, I was told that my job was to protect democracy, national security, and the economic well-being of the UK. I would suggest that the actions we've seen over the last few years and this hysterical response to the nebulous war on terror have eroded all three. What we've seen over the last few years, and Edward Snowden has confirmed, is mass illegal data mining surveillance that erodes all our basic right to privacy online. Not only is this illegal under any expanded concept of the current status of UK law, it also means that we are very aware that our privacy can be eroded, intercepted. Everything we read, we write, we watch, we activate, we plan, everything on the internet can now be grabbed by the spies. And there is already a well-known Snowden effect. I think it's 28% of UK adults have changed their online behaviour because they are beginning to self-censor. Once you begin to self-censor in how you communicate because you don't feel you have privacy, then you lose the ability to be an effective and a participatory citizen of your country. So that is threatening our democratic way of life. In terms of national security, this is an interesting one in the UK because for legal purposes it has never been defined. So it's a very elastic concept that the spies and the government can use and abuse to cover up a whole series of scandals, embarrassments and crimes, and they do. We know again from Edward Snowden that the corporations over the last few years have been very complicit in allowing spies access to their information. Everything we offer up on Facebook for free is the sort of information it used to take the spies months to collate on each and every one of us. And we're giving it up. And Facebook gave it up to the spies too. This is one of the biggest issues that we currently face, and we as a country need to step back, work out what is our national security to begin with, how do we best protect it, and are the current setups fit for purpose to do so. And this involves an informed and adult debate, and we are a long way from that in this country, where we just get hysterical overreaction from our politicians who need to be seen to be doing something, and they always seem to jump in precisely the wrong direction.
Individual practices, in other words, different kinds of encryption, encryption by developers to make infrastructure stronger, lead to a more secure society, which is not, for example, forced to confront as many cyber attacks, whatever these are. And so therefore that would then be in line with the goals of a democratic government which seeks to protect its society. So this would be, for example, a complementary framing. But instead what we're seeing is this oppositional framing between different kinds of security. And that perpetuates other kind of, you could say, false dichotomies, for example, security versus privacy, which is another thing that could be seen as complementary instead, where when you pursue privacy, you end up creating the same kinds of infrastructure that you would to pursue human security, cybersecurity. After the Paris attacks, a bunch of new arguments came up again about why encryption is somehow to blame. The concentration on encryption altogether after the attacks was a deflection from an intelligence failure. You know, a few days after the attacks, Turkey came out and said that there had been a warning. They had tried to get in touch with people within the French government to say that someone was crossing a border who had certain ties. This somehow got lost in the noise. And despite the fact that these things continue to be lost in the noise, there is a call to create more noise. And so in other words, larger haystack, more data, and less encryption, even though encryption wasn't even used by the people who perpetrated the attack. They were using unencrypted SMS and Sony PlayStation.
One of the Snowden revelations was about how, a number of the Snowden revelations was about how the NSA and GCHQ are hacking into devices, mobile phones, laptops, and not only on an individualized basis, but that they're hacking in a mass sense, that they're deploying malware against computers on a bulk basis. We brought a challenge against GCHQ in one of the British tribunals, which is specially set up to consider surveillance complaints in the UK. That was lodged in May 2014. In January 2015, the government was due to present its response to our claims. And on the same day, the government's deadline was for sending back their response to our claims, they published, for the first time ever, a draft code of practice for hacking, which basically is their way of saying, as of today, this is now legal. in this country. So in direct response to a legal challenge which said there's no basis in law for you to hack, they publish a new law saying now we can hack. The other thing that I've been concerned about is really about the homogenization of culture and society through surveillance and the internet, the kind of anti-extremist measures that are happening here in the UK, and that horrible, revelation last week that teachers are being told to watch out for students who disagree with government policies as a sign of extremism. If disagreeing with your government is a sign of extremism, then what opportunity is there for radical thinking, progressive thinking that challenges the status quo? And I think with the added layer of surveillance, people are going to become more and more afraid to express radical thoughts. Eric Schmidt of Google talked about the ability to develop a spell check for extremist speech online, so that you would be, I guess there'd be like a little red squiggly line underneath your hate speech, and then they'd somehow kind of, delete it before you are able to post it. Drawing that line is not an easy one, and I don't think that should be an automated decision.